idea of bond. And there are so many terminologies related to bond I like to highlight here. Like the concept of bond yield, which is very important. Factors affecting bond yield, very important. Yes or no? So I like to talk about here right now the importance of bond. So what is a bond? Bond is, guys, bond is a fixed income instrument. A bond is a fixed debt-based instrument, or I can say a bond is a fixed income. It's a debt-based instrument. It's a debt-based instrument. It's a debt-based instrument that involves raising the money by debt and generates a fixed income, that is interest payment, and generates a fixed income, that is interest payment to the lender. Yes or no? To the lender. So any doubt here? Now let me elaborate more terminologies here, guys. See, this is try to understand, guys. This is the time when I can say, yes, so this is the time when I say that, okay, bond is issued at face value. And this bond is issued at a face value of rupees 1000. And when I'm issued at a face value of rupees 1000, let me tell you guys, I told you, whoever invests in a bond, it must earn some interest amount. That coupon rate, which is also known as interest rate, that coupon rate, which is also known as an interest rate, that is 10%. Again, I'm highlighting coupon rate is also known as interest rate. Clear? Now this bond, sir, first term I like to highlight, sir, what I mean with the word face value. Sir, what I mean with the face value? Face value is the price. Face value of a bond or of a security refers to the price at the time at which that security is issued. Face value refers to the price at which the security is issued, and it will be redeemed at which security is issued, and this is the price only. It will be redeemed at the time of maturity. Redeemed at the maturity period. Yes or no? So that means you are saying that at the time of maturity, so this is the maturity period. So at the time of maturity period, what is the redeem price? That is, what is the price at which this bond will be redeemed? That will be rupees 100. Rupees 100. Clear? So this is the price when it is issued by the issuer. That is known as the face value, and that is the same price it is going to get at the end of its maturity period. But over its time period, but during its time period, guys, try to understand, during its time period, this bond is tradable. During this time period, guys, let me tell you, the bond is tradable. And when I say bond is tradable, that means, sir, the bond demand and supply, it will be there. Sir, when I say bond is tradable in the market, that means, sir, the market forces of demand and supply will automatically come. And thereby, sir, when it is there will be a price known as bond market price. Bond market price is the price at which at which this bond is traded in the market. Try to understand. Bond market price is the price, MP, that is market price, is the price at which bond is traded in the market, because bond is tradable over the course of its time period. Now, this bond market price, guys, is different from the bond face value. Bond market price is not equivalent to bond face value. Bond face value, guys, is the value. Try to understand. Bond face value is the value, that is, a bond face value refers to the price at which that security is issued by the issuer at the time of issuance of security. But bond market price is the price which is there in the market. And this market price, guys, this bond market price is dependent upon market forces of demand and supply. Dependent upon market forces of demand and supply. Are you getting my point? It is dependent upon market forces of demand and supply. Clear? Market forces. That means, sir, if there is a high demand, what I mean here is, sir, if there is high demand of this bond, sir, don't you think the bond market price will increase? Definitely. And sir, if suppose the supply of such demand increases, then in that case, bond market price will decrease. Any doubt here? The basic concept of market force of demand and supply. So now you try to understand, I have discussed with you certain terminologies of the bond. The first is face value. Clear? Second, the coupon rate, that is interest amount. Clear? And this interest rate, here I like to point one more point. This interest rate is calculated on the face value. This interest rate, guys, is calculated on the face value. This interest rate is calculated on the face value. Clear? Now here, guys, I like to point out not only this, bond market price is another term. And we know this bond market price is not equivalent to face value, because this bond market price is dependent upon the market forces of demand and supply. If there's a high demand of such bond, it will increase the bond market price. Yes or no? Now the last one more terminology is bond yield. Bond yield. That's a last terminology. See, bond yield, if I talk about, guys, it is calculated as, bond yield is calculated as coupon amount or the interest amount divided by bond market price multiplied by 100%. Multiply by 100%. So you see this coupon amount, guys, is constant. Why it is constant? You see why this coupon amount is constant. Please try to understand. Interest rate is constant and this interest is calculated on the face value. Now this face value is constant. So thereby interest amount is how much? 100. So thereby, don't you think this coupon amount is constant? Constant. So thereby bond yield is inversely proportional to bond market price. Can I deduce this relationship, derive this relationship from here? Yes. Yes. Now let me discuss some important points for you. What are the factors that affect bond yield? What are the factors affecting bond yield? What are the factors that affect bond yield, guys? First, bond market price. So we know with the bond market price, bond yield is inversely proportional. We have seen that. Bond yield, that means inversely proportional. So that means if the bond market price increases, this will lead to decline of bond yield. Second is interest rates. Second is interest rates. Now, what I mean with the interest rate, how bond yield is linked to the interest rate? See, let me ask you, suppose there is one set of investments which provide you a market determined interest rate. Clear? One set of instruments which provide you a market determined interest rate. Then there is a second set of instruments known as bond, which are, you can say, a kind of safe instruments, safe government securities, like that. One set of instruments where you invest, you get a market determined interest rate. On the other hand, there is a second set of instruments which are safe securities, especially the government securities known as bonds. Now, suppose if the market is growing, if the country is growing at a very rapid pace, where will you like to invest? Where will you like to invest? You will like to invest in the market determined interest rate because they are going to give you the high returns. Yes or no? Yes or no? Remember, when your stock market increases, guys, just try to notice that the price of gold might come down. That safe instrument. The price of gold might come down. But when your stock market starts decreasing, because they are now offering the low rate of return. Yes or no? When they are offering low rate of return, you will find out the demand for gold is increasing. That is why the price of gold is increasing. Please understand that. Clear? So now coming back, when our country is growing, I just like to point out, when our country is growing, you would like to invest where? In the interest rate that is offering you high interest rate. So you are investing it here. So that means, sir, you will be demanding, as an investor, you will be demanding less bonds. When you are demanding less bonds, the bond market price, will it increase or decrease? That will decrease. Are you getting my point? That bond market price will decrease. And when bond market price, guys, will decrease, the bond market price, when it decreases, bond yield will increase. Yes or no? So when bond yield is increasing with respect to the increase in interest rates. Are you getting my point? Bond yield is increasing with the increase in the interest rate. Because if the interest rates are high, market determined interest rates are high, people like to invest in that investment rather than investment in the safe securities. Thereby the demand of bonds will come down, bond market price will come down, and bond yield will go up. So if I try to tell you the relationships combining all these factors, please remember this relationship, guys, now. That is, bond yield is inversely proportional to bond market price. And this bond market price is also inversely proportional to interest rate in an economy. So thereby I can say that bond yield is directly proportional to interest rate. Directly proportional to interest rates. Clear? Thereby, can I say that if interest rate in an economy will increase, the bond yield will increase. And if the interest rate decreases, the bond yield will decreases. Related to that, suppose if I talk about third factor, like RBI is thinking of conducting a cheap monetary policy. RBI thinks that, okay, let me conduct a cheap monetary policy. Now, when you are conducting cheap monetary policy, tell me its impact on the bond yield. Will the bond yield increase or will the bond yield decrease? Tell me. The bond yield will decrease, because when the RBI is conducting a cheap monetary policy, expansionary monetary policy, accommodative stance, that means they are reducing the interest rates. And when the interest rates are reducing, the bond yield is likely to come down. Remember this relationship. This is how you have to think. Not only that, now this cheap monetary policy means if this cheap monetary policy will increase more and more money supply in an economy. More money supply in an economy, guys, leads to high money supply in an economy leads to reduction of interest rates, and this reduction of interest rate again brings down the bond yield. Clear? Fourth, tenure of loan, tenure of security. If the security is for a long term, guys, if the security is of a long term, like suppose a loan has been given for a long term as compared to the short term, in which case the bond yield will be higher. We have discussed. Tell me, the interest rates, haven't we discussed, for long term is more than interest rates for short term? So thereby, in a normal circumstance, bond yield for long term will be more for bond yield for short term. Yes or no? Bond yield for long term will be more than bond yield for short term. Fifth, if our country is having high fiscal deficit, if our country is having high fiscal deficit, let us try to understand this also. When the country is having high fiscal deficit, now you see, tell me, the government needs high money to finance its fiscal deficit. And how the government will get the high money? When more securities will be issued in the market. Yes or no? When more securities will be issued in the market, the supply of securities in the market, will it increase? Yes. When the supply of security will be increased, the bond market price, will it increase or decrease? It will decrease. And when bond market price will decrease, thereby the bond yield is likely to increase. Yes or no? Let me also just confirm this. Fiscal position, yes. Yes. Sixth, suppose during a recession position, if a country is witnessing a recession or slowdown. Now tell me, if a country is witnessing a recession or slowdown, in this case, what will be the kind of interest rates now to deal with this recession? To deal with this recession, what will be the kind of interest rate? How will you tackle the recession? You will conduct a cheap monetary policy. You will go for expansionary policy. Expansionary policy means, sorry, you will conduct a cheap monetary policy. So you are like to reduce the interest rate. When you reduce the interest rate, the bond yield will be reduced. Yes or no? So when you reduce the interest rate, the bond yield will also be reduced. Other way, let us think. See, you need to confirm the answer from the other way of thinking. We are mostly bringing the answers with respect to the relationship between bond yield and interest rate. But we have to think from the other way also. Like, suppose during the recession period, will you be investing in the market determined investment? No. You will not be investing in the market determined instruments because you don't have trust on that. At the time of recession or slowdown, you invest in the safe instrument. Thereby, don't you think the demand of those securities will increase? The demand of bonds will increase. The bond market price will increase. When the bond market price will increase, bond yield will come down. Clear? Next, when the country is having high inflation, lastly, if the country is having higher inflation, when the country is having higher inflation, guys, what would be its impact? So high inflation, what would be its impact on the coming bond yield? When the country is going to have higher inflation, guys, don't you think the interest rate is now going to increase? When interest rates are going to increase, the bond yield is also likely to increase. Clear? This is, guys, I tell you, the complete idea about the concept of a bond, a debt-based instrument, that involves giving a regular coupon payment or the interest payment to the investor. Clear? And then there are various terminologies we have seen: face value, coupon rate, market price, all those things. We have seen that. But one very important terminology, that is bond yield. That is known as bond yield. And we have tried to understand that suppose if any question is asked, we should be able to answer this concept of bond yield. If anything is being changed, whether interest rates are getting changed, bond market price, you are trying to link with this, you can get the answer easily.